Good morning. It's November 15th, I think it is. I might have turned the volume a little bit because speaking a little softer this morning. So nothing, I'm not doing this because anything particularly tragic has happened or anything like that. That's not what it is. Just I've had some thoughts, some feelings that I just want to talk a little bit about. I think this video is going to probably be a private one, or at least for a little bit, because it's a little hard, and while I do want to share these, I think I kind of want to take my time before I do that, especially in online spaces. So where do I start here? So I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I've adapted pretty well to being here at college, but I still feel like, I miss my family, I miss my pets, I miss being home with them. And I don't think for me that necessarily missing home means a specific sort of like geographical region or a particular city or state or anything, but I think it's just wherever my closest ones are at, my family, my immediate family, that would be, right? And I don't know. I've been doing pretty good, and it doesn't really stress me out most of the time. But honestly, I think that, it's not that I'm tired of schoolwork or labor position or homework or anything like that, because I don't really think that's particularly problematic. I think those are fine. I think I'm doing good. I don't feel exhausted by them. Yeah, I feel a little tired, but I think it's just like normal tired. But what I mean is just like, I don't know. It's a little hard trying to think of all these really big things about, like, what job do I want to work, or what internship experiences might I have here during this time to help with that, or also again, like, where do I live? I know I've said places in the past before, but like, honestly, I think I kind of just didn't really want to acknowledge the fact that it's really hard to move to another country. It's honestly kind of just, well, it was very bold of me to just assume that I could just do that, right? And that while knowing, yeah, sure, there's like these legal things or whatever, like, I'll be fine. But I mean, I guess at the end of it, I might, but, and let me go back to the thing of, just kind of molded me to assume that I could just move like that. Is that now I'm also kind of realizing, like, as I'm having to think more about sort of like practical sort of details and whatnot. And there's still so much that I don't know, right? Like, I've not bought my own house or mode of transportation or anything like that. So, you know, I've not actually had to pay sort of like healthcare bills or whatever. So I don't really know what those are actually like, but you know, just trying to think about the logistics of what it mean, and not just those, but like emotionally and psychologically, what does that mean? You know, good and bad. And kind of realizing that, like, hey, you know, there's a lot of good things that I could get out, you know, that I could enjoy, you know, whether it be, you know, we'll just say stuff I've talked about before, because I don't really want to repeat myself. Right. But that I also didn't really consider the fact that, you know what, maybe it's not really better in one place than it is in another. That, you know, maybe you just be trading, you know, realistically, you'd be trading one set of problems for another. And you'd have to, you know, adapt to a sort of completely different culture. Right? Even places that you think would be, or at least that we've been taught to think are super similar to the things that we enjoy here in the United States, you know, maybe such as places like Canada, you know, that I've talked about at least a few times, don't really realize like how actually different it is. And that's not a bad thing, you know, there's no shame in it. And I think honestly it's, for me, I guess it's not so much as a shock that it's different, as so much as it is just the question of like, where did this sort of assumption that they're basically just like us pretty much, except just like a slightly better versions or whatever you believe in.
Walk sign on for all crossings.
You know, they're basically just like another version or an extension, so to say, of what it's like here, but just like better with the stuff that I've talked about before. I don't like my notification calendar popped up. It's so annoying that they don't naturally go away. I should get that figured out. Try to figure out if I can turn off notifications while I'm making a video. Because I've actually had a few times where like the video just sort of like randomly ended because I tried to swipe away a notification and then it just stopped filming. So then I just had to continue the second video. But as for speaking of emotional sort of thing again, you know, not realizing like, you know, that hey, like if it's even if it's just a little hard, being, you know, 40-ish minutes away from my family, right? How's it gonna feel if I'm hundreds of miles away, right? And for them to come visit me, they have to, you know, they'd have to go through a whole bunch of, you know, legal hoops. They'd have to save up quite an amount of money to be able to, you know, stay for that long. But, and right now, I honestly don't really know what to do. You know, I'm kind of realizing that while I know that it's like super cliche, that like, you can't really plan your life out per se, or like oftentimes what you think you're gonna do with your life when you're young, you end up not doing like that. I mean, some people do, and if it works out great for them, that's good. And I will say, I don't think that because many people change what they're gonna do is like a bad thing. I think for many, it could just be kind of coming in terms with reality and seeing like, well, what does this job or culture or whatever look like in real life? What does it feel like to be a part of that community? What sort of challenges would you face? Right? And then you kind of just make those considerations. You adjust your plans, your actions, your attitudes, towards those two things. And hell, it's honestly really kind of a continuous life process. You can't really just, as much as I really want to, I can't really just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but these are the things I'm going to do for like the rest of my life, or to plan it out between those two different things. Because it's not really how the real world works. People change. I don't know how much so. I guess there's an argument that people stay the same. Well, another argument that they change, but it's not really the point. We adapt. There's new, culture itself changes. It's not a fixed thing. Although when you're young, it's hard not to see it in the other way. I mean, that's what you grew up with, grew up under, right? It's what you know. So you think, well, how could it not be this way? It kind of feels like this is the only way that things really can be. Or that, like, this is the best version we have. Or something like that. Or for some people, they probably don't have that experience. Especially if they grew up with, really bad family. Or, or an abusive situation. And I understand that. Well, anyway. I'm here at Alumni. So I gotta eat breakfast. I have 2 classes today. I have work. I got some homework stuff I gotta do. For the chemistry class, and then again the sociology things I've been procrastinating. And maybe more of that fucking stuff for next week too. Anyways, my experience here at Berea, I'd say, has been good for the most part, but it's not to say that there's not times or moments or things, considerations that are hard. And I know I'll get through these. I know that, right, I can work hard and I can be patient and I can do my research, but I can also think about what, what might the world throw at me and kind of, adjust to that. So anyway, I don't know if that last little bit made any sense or not, but regardless, I'd love to talk more, but I really need to go eat, so see you later.